All right. Good morning. What is today's date? Oh, it's my son's birthday. Today is September 17th. Today I'm informed that we may not have a quorum, so I'm just going to, Mr. City Attorney, we're just going to roll this thing out, and I think it'll be quick and clean. I do anticipate that maybe in a little while we'll have another member of this committee. But Ms. Barclay, I think what we want to do now is, I'll start off with public comment. I have one card, one card and one card coming. So if Chuck Tenen would come forward, and then Noel Weiss. But turn in your card so it's official.
Go turn it in.
I'm just finishing.
Make him go turn it in now, Chuck.
Hey, you know what? Go turn it in.
Chuck, good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you.
You're
is really
quite
nice.
welcome. You know, it's my pleasure. You do a lot of good things, and you know what? Somebody should show their appreciation, and I think all those kids love you, and they thank you, and it's a wonderful thing.
Well, thanks
a
a lot.
wonderful
He
thing,
just
and
brought me a book that he made. It's selected photographs from the second annual camping and fishing trip with Herb that I take kids on, and we took 140 kids to Hanson Dam this August for 3 days and 2 nights, and they swam and rode horses for the first time, and they fished, and we somehow managed to catch over 200 pounds of fish, and Chuck and Andrew back there cleaned all of the fish, so he just brought me a book, and I really appreciate that. I'm going to take this home. It means a lot. So,
Okay. Good morning, committee members. They're not all here. I'm just going to be doing some things today, not anything special, but, you know, I think there should be a report each week from the housing department. Mercedes should put one together on the progress, because, you know, it appears more and more programs have failed and the loss of more affordable housing. Every week it'd be nice to know what they're doing so we can kind of move things forward there. And with regard to TOPA, you know, there's a building in Herb's district. There's one in Wendy Gruhl's district in Garcetti's. You know, gee, it'd be nice to come up with a program and move it forward, because we need it, and to implement the motion that was put forth. And like Ed Bray has said, his biggest passion is that everyone in the city has housing. Well, look what the city's done in the last 100 years, and you all can add your legacy in a collective effort. A city planner told me that if they don't approve track maps and projects, they get sued regardless. Well, you know what? If track maps are approved, and I see it every time I come down, it goes like that. If a track map is approved, then terms and conditions should be met and enforced. Paper is only as good as the people behind it. And a note on the fishing, you know, my goal is to have every district in the city take the kids fishing to support youth programs, eliminate gang violence, and support gang intervention. And you know, one of the reasons on my goal of doing that is if every district took the kids fishing as one aspect of something they could do, it would show total unity and inspiration that in this city, the city council can together move mountains. And you know, this morning coming down here, I know I brought it here at first, there was 6 parking violations when I took the red line down. That's $300 if they implemented the $50. And I thought about it. I says, you know what? I bet the city'd make $100,000 a day in something like this. And one last thing is, housing committee members, I know you're all here, 10 years from now, when you're no longer a city council member, what legacy will you leave in contributing to the city's housing efforts? Will you be remembered as a leader, or will you be remembered as all? I know you all take efforts and try to do good things, but you know what? Hard work never hurt anyone, and need to work harder and come together and housing is a big issue, and thank you.
Okay, Chuck, now I gave you that extra
I
time.
know.
Because
So
you
I'm gonna
gave
lose
me,
mine, right?
you gave me the book, so I'm gonna.
Thank you.
I'm
God
gonna
bless
take,
you.
I'm gonna take that time
Yeah,
away
you
from
take it
me.
from me, that's right.
Joe, I mean,
Noel, that's right.
Noel, you got 17 seconds.
Thank you, Herb. I'll just ram it down. Herb, I did.
Oh,
Chuck-
wait, Andrew did tell me, Chuck, Lord willing, I have 11 and a half years left, okay?
Well,
Don't
make-
undercut me.
Okay,
go
well,
on, Noel.
we want to make them good, Herb. It's really important. Chuck stole my thunder a little bit on this enforcement issue. Ed Reyes, every week, Herb, has on his agenda a weekly status report from housing and from the planning department relating to tenant issues and other issues that are important kind of to the people. I would ask you to please consider and please implement such a policy where basically housing is here, you have a permanent agenda item, housing would be here, one, to learn from the people right here, to be very efficient, what the problems are, because there are a lot of them, and I appreciate Andrew's follow-up on this conversion issue, but honestly, Herb, if they were here, sitting, the people could communicate to you and to them at the same time, and it would be a very efficient way to get some dialogue. And it's almost, I mean, nobody's perfect, none of us are, and there are problems in the housing department. There's no reason to say to housing, look, tell me, Herb Wesson, and my committee, what problem you found, what problem you solved, and how you solved it. Because part of the issue is we have today, the market is tanking. Why? They say, oh, what's the problem? What's the problem? Bottom line is regulation and enforcement. The laws are there to enforce these values, to enforce these principles. And it just comes down to, you guys have a lot to do, your staffs have a lot to do. Why can't we have a situation where they become a little bit more responsive to the needs of better serving the public? Again, it's not to say they're bad people because they make a mistake. I just want them to be made to be a little bit more accountable to the people. And I think doing this, Herb, would go a long ways toward getting the kind of dialogue going that's needed between the people and the housing department, because otherwise, we're just talking to ourselves. They're talking to you, you're talking to them, and the people are on the outside in. That housing summit that the mayor just did, they had business people there. They didn't have any real people. They had executives. They didn't have any tenants on that panel. So we have situations where, why is it that we're destroying more affordable housing than we're creating? What's going on? And you got people like Ken Kahan sitting there saying, oh no, I need more R4 and R3 and R4. Give me more, give me more. Well, we're finding out that bailing out the big guys isn't necessarily the formula to the best success. I'm not saying capitalism isn't great. It is. But we got to smooth out the rough edges, and I would appreciate your consideration of my proposal. Thank you.
Okay, did you turn your card in, Noel?
Excuse me? I did turn it in, Herb, I promise.
Just check it.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's good enforcement right off the bat, by the way. Thanks.
All right. And with all due respect, I am really fortunate to be the chair of this committee, and I would say publicly that I have a great working relationship with all of the departments that report to this committee. And the relationship that I have with the housing department is stellar. I think they have stellar people. And I meet with them monthly, and then I'll pass on what you said and see if they want to come up with, maybe we can do something. I don't see weekly, because I think that might be a little too much and take from other things, but there might be something. I hate to say it, no, but you might have given me a nugget, just a nugget. Okay, with that said, for everybody that's truly interested, I just have to tell you this: the camping and fishing trip. We have one kid, 9 years old. Hanson Dam has a water slide. The little kid gets on the water slide and he comes down and swallows too much water and panics. So we pull him out of the pool, this is the first night, we call paramedics. I'm ready to just shoot myself. I've killed somebody's kid here. So the kid is scared, but he's okay, and he talks to his mother, and he decides to stay because the kid was just scared, and you could understand that he would be. So he has a good night, everything is well. The next morning, the little sucker gets stung by a bee. I just do not believe the luck of this one kid. Okay, with that said, Ms. Barclay, let's quickly go through items, I guess 2 through 9 or 2 through 8. 2 through 9. So if you could start off with item 2.
Meg Barclay, CLA. The item 2 is a report from the Community Redevelopment Agency and the City Administrative Officer relative to an owner participation agreement with CFRI and CA Palladium Venture for the facade rehabilitation of the Hollywood Palladium.
Okay, then on item 2, we'll adopt the CAO report. Item 3,
Item 3 is a report from the
as
CR.
a communique from the chair, all right? Go on.
Item 4 is a report from the item 3 is a report from the CRA and the Chief Legislative Analyst relative to approving an updated statement of investment policy.
Then on that, as a communique from the chair, we'll adopt the CLA report. That brings us to item 4.
Item 4 is a report from the CRA and the CLA relative to a contract with Parking Concepts, Inc. for parking management and operations at the Cinerama Dome parking structure.
Okay, as a communique from the chair, we'll adopt the CLA report. Item 5.
Item 5 are reports from the Los Angeles Housing Department and the CAO relative to a new contract with the Housing Rights Center to operate the citywide fair housing program.
Okay, we'll adopt the CAO report as a communique from the chair. Item 6.
Item 6 is a report from LAHD and the CAO relative to reappropriating Fannie Mae Innovations and Government Grant Awards for the Systematic Code Enforcement Program.
Okay, then we'll adopt the CAO report on item 6, again as a communique from the chair. That brings us to item 7.
Item 7 is a report from the Community Development Department relative to the status of grant applications for the period of January 1st, 2008 through June 30th, 2008.
Okay, then on item 7, we'll receive and file the CDD report. Item 8, it really makes no sense for us to read it. We're going to continue the item until October 1st. So that now brings us to item 9.
Item 9 are reports from the CDD and the CAO relative to the proposed 2008-2009 budget for the Industrial Development Authority.
Okay. Well, this was an item that we were going to, have some dialogue on, but since I'm the only one here and basically know what this is all about, without objection on this item, we'll adopt the CAO report as a communique from the chair. And I believe that brings us to, and I could be wrong, to item 1.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let's read item 1.
Item 1 is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Lucilia K. Hooper to the Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles for the term ending June 6, 2010.
Ms. Hooper. Yes. Come forward, dear. And it's okay to smile. I'm friendly.
I know. Good morning.
Good morning. So, have you ever served on any city commissions or committees before?
No.
Well, what makes you want to pull the mic a little closer? What makes you want to serve on this one?
For one reason, I've been a resident of Nickerson Gardens for the past 32 years. And I've been working in my community doing volunteer work for over 25 years. And I've attended all of the meetings with the Housing Authority, and I think I will be a great access to the Housing Authority and to serve on the Board of Commission.
Well, believe it or not, I've had a relationship with Nickerson Gardens that goes, back 20-some-odd years, and I'm highly respectful, in particular, of the individuals that run your sports programs out of the gym.
Those are my sons, Donnie and Hank.
Donnie
Yes.
is your son?
He's my adopted
That's
son.
fine. That's fine. He is a good man, a good role model, and I had a midnight basketball league in the district that I represent.
I know.
And Donnie's team, or your Nickerson Garden team, won, and we brought them to the council, to show our respect. So when you go back to Donnie, tell him when we do the league this year, if he would let one of the teams from my district win.
Okay, I will tell him, but you can also tell him he'll be here shortly.
What? He's what, to see you?
Yes.
Oh, well, he is a good man. So what made you, did you find the mayor found you, or what made you select this commission?
The mayor found me.
Okay.
Through the work that I've been doing in Nickerson and throughout Watts, with the Watts Gang Task Force. I'm the vice president of the Watts Gang Task Force.
Okay.
And with the work that I've been doing with that, And also, I was the chair for his day of service in the Watts area.
Oh,
And I've just been real active in my community and trying to serve my community. And I always said that if I can save another child's life from being lost out in the street, I know that I have did something that the Lord wanted me to do.
and I concur. Hey, Chuck, didn't you go speak before the task force?
Many times,
Men-
I was going to say, I sure support this lady.
Well, now that you do,
She deserves it. She seems to be there all the time, but she has my vote.
I'm now joined by my dear friend and colleague, Tony Cardenas. Both of us are very glad that we are in the city of Los Angeles today and not in Sacramento. And we can definitely, we feel for our brothers and sisters up there. Anyway, this is really kind of exciting, Mr. Cardenas. Ms. Hooper has been a lifelong activist in or around the Nickerson Gardens area, and Chuck has been a visitor with some regularity to, I think he helped you guys coordinate a fishing.
Yes,
Trip.
with Chuck, we was able to send 120 young kids on a day of fishing. And they had a real great time. I wasn't able to go on that trip, but they had a really good time, and the kids still bragging about the fish and everything. And that was something to be proud of, because a lot of kids had never been on a boat. They had never been that close to catching the fish no more than going to the market.
How many of those kids got seasick? Half of mine did the first year.
4.
That's all? So did you have older kids? Well, I mean, the ship, the Chuck that we were on, when we came back into the harbor or whatever it's called, you would have thought that we had just come back from war, because kids and counselors. I mean, a lot of Donnie's colleagues, these big tough guys from, Jim Gilliam Park. I mean, they were talking smack. I'm going to catch a shark. Next thing I know, they're throwing up in a garbage can and lay. So I'm amazed. Was it calm? Was the sea calmer?
Calm, they had a great time.
Yeah, well, what we have to do, and what I briefly mentioned to Donnie, is just see the program that I have primarily services kids within the district that I represent. But I think the next time I'm going to give Donnie 20 slots where he can select 20 of the best kids, because the one thing that I found out the first time that I did it was I did an overnight where they came to the park, they stayed all night, then at 5 in the morning we got up and we went deep sea fishing. The only problem was it wasn't enough time. So this time we did 3 days and 2 nights, and the kids really got a feeling that they were, out at a camp. And I don't care what anybody says, these are kids, some of which live 12 miles from the ocean, that have never seen the ocean. These are kids that have never had the opportunity to catch a fish. These are kids that went crazy looking at the bait. Okay, so to give them an opportunity, something that's really clean and fresh and positive, you'd be amazed at how it changes the lives of these young children. And like I said, the last trip, Ms. Hooper, we did, imagine I had kids riding horses for 1 hour that had never ridden a horse before in their life, and swimming as well. So anybody in my view that has done the types of things that you've done for so many years is deserving to fill this post. So I know that I will wholeheartedly recommend that we confirm you. Was it going to be later today?
Yes, at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, because and it's like I said, you do deserve it. Plus, Donnie is big, and I don't want him to beat me up. Okay,
you
Mr.
very much.
Cardenas.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Hooper, for all of the wonderful things you've done for the community of Los Angeles, and we appreciate your willingness to continue to officially give your time for free. You do it a lot already, but by joining the Housing Authority board, one of the things I'd like to ask, if you would like, I'd like to have commissioners in general, Mr. Chair, to be given an opportunity to be briefed on industry issues and terminology and all those kinds of things, aside from the city staff. I have learned so much as a policymaker by taking my own time, and luckily for me, I'm a paid public servant, et cetera, and I have staff, and I've been able to get people and organizations giving up their time to take me through issue 101 on this matter, and then come into my office and brief me on issue number 2 on things that I make policy decisions on, but I don't know much of the details. But when you're in the position that you're at and you don't have staff and you don't have that opportunity to do that, I think that the city should afford you the opportunity to have experts brief you on certain things. I probably would bet that you're probably an expert at knowing how to raise children right and getting them to do the right thing, regardless of the circumstance. But you know, it doesn't mean that you or I know that much about all this official housing stuff. How do you feel about if we give you the opportunity to have that kind of input and expertise come your way?
I would be most grateful to accept it. And I would just like to say that I am a mother of 4, a grandmother of 7, and a great-grandmother of 3. And just about all of the young men and women that are in Nickerson Gardens that grew up with my kids, I've taken them in when one of the parents passed away and tried to give them guidance and, just show them the right way to go and tell them how to go about getting a job, how they could better themselves, go back to school, get an education, and also how to just be a good person, because I put the Lord first in my life. And once you put God first in your life, everything else falls right in, you don't have to worry about it. And I would be most grateful to serve on that. And I don't have a lot. I say I don't have a lot to offer, but other people tell me that I do have a lot to offer. And anything that I can do to help the city of Los Angeles and the Housing Authority, I am most willing to do it.
Well, thank you very much, and maybe when you find the time, you can give us some classes on how to raise our children, because my wife and I are trying to raise 4, and it's very, very difficult. But when it comes to all these technical matters and all these kinds of things that affect us, especially when it comes to housing in the city, I want to talk to the chairman to see how we can afford people like yourself, people who are volunteering and being on commissions and being on boards, to be able to get expertise and information and ask questions of people who do this for a living, and especially people who don't want to tell you what you want to hear, but just tell you, why did the government start this program, and then walk you through. And sometimes by understanding that, you understand how dumb government can be, and you can ask intelligent, wonderful questions from your perspective about these programs, and then eventually change these programs.
Well, I always ask questions. They might not give me the answer that I want, but I keep asking until finally somebody will give me the answer, or they'll get tired of me calling their office and, trying to get a point over about the Housing Authority.
You bring up a wonderful point, and that's where having briefings from people who don't work for the city, for example, and I'll admit that I actually...
Wrong committee, Mr. Smith.
I actually had some meetings with some third-party organizations, and I was real happy about the meetings I had with some of the city staff, and then the person laughed. And I'm a councilman, so, most people don't laugh at me. And then the person laughed and said, "You're happy with that meeting?" I said, "Yeah, they gave me some good information." And the person said, "You asked this question?" I said, "Yeah, I asked the question." He said, "They gave you this answer?" And I said, "Yeah, they gave me that answer." And I was smiling, and he says, "That doesn't mean anything." He says, "You need to ask this question and this question." And all of a sudden, they're going to tell you something different, or all of a sudden they're going to get real quiet. So when I did that, they did answer the question differently, and then they did get real quiet, because then they realized that I was onto them, and that they were going to have to start telling me the truth instead of telling me what would make me feel good and walk away thinking that I got the truth. You get what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying, and we also, as being a leader in the community, we also have people that come into the communities and do the same thing to the leaders. They'll come in with one agenda, and they'll walk out with something else. We have had people to come in and write grants on and tell us that they was coming in to help the developments. And when we look up, they done got the grant, they gone, and we don't have anything.
Exactly.
And then when we do go to try to write for another grant, they'll write us back, well, we just gave you guys this money, and we don't have a clue to where that person is right now. They don't receive the money, and they gone to somebody else to sucker them in another hole. And that's just the way I look at it. But when they come into my community, I ask questions. And I can look at a person's face, and if their eyes or head get to bobbing and they get to trying to go on to the left instead of going to the right with me, that makes me think, well, they're not here for the same reason that I am.
Well, I appreciate you definitely understand what your role is in defending your community and helping your community. But one of the things I want to promise you that I'm going to talk to the chairman about how we can get third-party information to you so that you can ask better questions, and then when you see the people coming, you can tell them respectfully that you don't need their help, especially when you realize they're not there to help you. And then you can actually count on other organizations and other individuals who are willing to come to the community and do the right thing. But knowledge is power, and that's one of the things that I want to let you know today, that in looking at you and talking with you, it dawned on me that we need to do more with you in order to empower you, truthfully empower you. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I would say this, of course, I would be in favor of anything that would give you more support so that you could do your job. It makes a big difference when you have individuals there that can, kind of help you walk through whatever it is you need to walk through. And now, since you said that you can look at a person, and if their head is moving to the left or what, so I'm gonna look you straight in your face, and I'm not gonna move at all, because I don't want you to go out there and say his head moved to the right instead of the left. But no, this has been a very enjoyable discussion with you, and on a slow committee day, I think that having you here today was a gift to all that are in attendance. So with that said, Mr. City Attorney, even though we don't have a quorum, we will, Mr. Cardenas and I will as a communique from the chair, recommend that the full council confirm your appointment today, and I'm sure you'll have a fan in the audience and Mr. Tennant who will be there. So with that, without objection, that'll be the order. Thank you, and I'll be looking for Donnie downstairs.
All right, thank you.
Okay, it was a pleasure.
It's a pleasure, too.
Ms.
Thank you.
Barclay, is there any more? Mr. Cardenas?
Yes, on item number 3, Mr. Chairman, I think that item, it was a communication of the chair recommend on that item to the full council. I did have a question.
On item 3, Ms.
on item
Barclay,
3.
if we can bring up the responsible.
Thank you very much for opening up that item, Mr. Chairman. I'll try to be brief. Yes, item number 3 has to do with the investment policy that governs the agency's investment and cash management practices and procedures. And some of the language changes, apparently according to the city attorney's office, was that we need to align the language with the current climate of the state of California pursuant to Proposition 209. So in California, we're not allowed to have preferential language when it comes to gender or race or what have you. So we're actually correcting some of that language. But Proposition 209 does not prohibit us having language that affords us the opportunity to do outreach specifically to certain communities. So my point to you is this: is there any way that we can make sure that we maximize our authority and ability to make sure that when it comes to the potential for utilizing the talent of smaller firms, firms that are up-and-coming firms, et cetera, and that happen to be either minority or women-owned or what have you, that we do outreach specifically to those communities more aggressively than we have in the past? Is the language and the efforts of the department already doing that?
Yes.
It is?
Yes,
Then
sir.
you're going to have to give me an example.
Okay, well, I think our record speaks for itself, and as the CLA report, and by the way, I'm Ray Forrest, CRA Finance Director, indicates that the deletion of that language to bring us in alignment with Proposition 209 has had virtually no impact on the way we do business. And I think our record speaks. Two of the 7 banks that we currently do business with are MBE banks, and we plan to add a third MBE bank within the next month. So that'll be 3 out of 8. That's nearly 40%. So we have criteria in the policy that indicates, what it takes to do business with the CRA, and in terms of banking, and one of the things is to have an office in a redevelopment project area. Now, having one atop Bunker Hill doesn't carry the same weight as one in South Los Angeles or over on the east side. We're aware of banks through our project managers and regional administrators that do business in their project areas, and we periodically solicit them for, leads, if you will, or recommended candidates. Sometimes they come to us, and whenever we go out with an RFP, our contracts department has a list of both MBE and WB institutions that are invited to participate.
How about announcing in specific periodicals or what have you that those particular periodicals actually reach out to minority and or women and or small businesses?
Absolutely. There are 3 newspapers that in which they publish notices of requests for qualifications and or proposals.
That didn't answer
financial
my
services.
question, though.
Pardon
You
me?
said there are 3 newspapers in which they make these announcements.
Yes.
Is it the Wall Street Journal that's one of them? Which
Absolutely
I don't think caters directly to minority and small businesses and women-owned businesses. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. No, the Sentinel, La Opinion, and Rafik Shrimpo?
Yeah, but wait a minute.
are the
Aren't there
3 newspapers?
How about Hispanic Magazine and things of that nature? Because you're talking about bankers and banking.
Right.
La Opinion, I don't know how many bankers are actually reading La Opinion, but there are specific industry periodicals that you could actually advertise in. Are you going out of your way to advertise in those?
To open a checking account or, a small savings type account, no. I might add, though, that we have various community organizations on our list, such as I think it's called the Latin Business Alliance or Association. There are various, community groups throughout the city of Los Angeles that get these as well, that foster local economic development.
All right.
And as a result, we've had experiences where we've sent 125, requests and gotten, less than a dozen. And the reason is often a third or more of the organizations on the list don't provide the services, but, they work with organizations that do.
Okay.
And they're feeders, if you will.
All right. I appreciate you trying to apprise me of your activities, but I'm not satisfied with the specifics. But in addition to that, you said that you have 2 Maybe Weeby banks out of
Yes.
7?
Yes.
Do you remember or have a feel for what kind of participation in the CRA activity that those 2 out of 7 banks have? Because, it's funny we should be talking about this, because the discussion I just had a few minutes ago was actually, I used a generic example of the staff telling me something, and I walked away really happy because, for example, when it came to investment firms, when it comes to bonds, I was told, and which was true, 5 out of 7 of the firms that actually were on the list to participate in a particular bond sale were actually small firms, minority and/or women-owned, out of 7.
Right.
And then the person laughed at me because the person said, you need to go back to the staff and ask them, what's the participation of the firms? And then that's when I got a frown when I finally got it out of the staff and they showed me the pie chart. The participation was 88% of the participation or fees that were drawn down by the 2 big New York firms. They got 88%. The other 5 firms only participated in 12%. That's what gave me a frown. So the reason why I ask you what the participation of those 2 banks are versus the other 5 banks, that is where the real dialogue is, and that's where the truth is. So are the 2 firms handling a total and average of 40%, 20% of the business of the CRA, or are they handling 2% of the CRA's business, 2% of the CRA's business, and the other non-minority and or small firms are handling the 98% of the business? How does it break down, sir?
In terms of cash deposits, and that's what banks really want, I would peg it at about 1/3.
So the 2 combined are participating with about 1/3?
Right. If you were to look at the holdings in our banks, the bulk is investment securities that are placed in a vault in custody. The bank gets a de minimis fee for that service. You would look at the number and you say, this is huge. Why is
banks make
why
money
is
on
Union
deposits?
Bank getting all this business and the other banks aren't? What the banks really want is cash, certificates of deposit, accounts where, say, parking receipts flow through. And if you look at it on that basis, then it's, and I don't have the data in front of me, I'm saying 20% or so. And I know you mentioned, you alluded, or were discussing bond underwriting, and I think we have a stellar record in that area, and none of these 7 banks are on that list. And we frequently have MBE banks as the sole, or certainly the lead underwriter, and in very few instances is the combined MBE participation less than 30 to 40% on every transaction.
Mr. Chairman, I promised I would make it brief. I apologize for all the time we're taking, but I do have some additional questions. I was wondering, Mr. Chairman, is it possible for us to hold this item in committee so I can have some private, more detailed discussions with the CRA?
Are there any time restrictions or what have you?
No, we can.
The problem with this, Mr. Cardenas,
Yes.
though, is we're dark for what, Andrew, 2 weeks? Yeah, so it would, I mean, it's not like we're going to have a meeting next Wednesday. So October 1st would be the first meeting. Does that fit within your?
Yes,
Okay.
we can. look at
Wonderful.
that schedule.
Then that's fine. So I would
Wonderful.
then afford Mr. Cardenas the opportunity to, have discussions with you so that he can satisfy, or that you will be given the opportunity to satisfy some of the very legitimate concerns that he does in fact have.
All right, those are
So
my questions.
with
Thank you.
that said,
So that item, we'll hold it in committee?
Item 3, we will move all of the items that we did earlier as communiques from the chair, except for item 3 will be continued to approximately October 1st.
Thank you.
Ms. Barclay, is there any additional business that is before this committee?
No, sir.
Then this committee is adjourned.
You'll tell me what to-
Let me go holler at Ms. Hooper. I'll meet you downstairs. Don't talk over.